everyone. My name is Chubby.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to No
No
Filters,
filters,
No
no
Fears
fears
podcast.
podcast. Well, today's episode is a level 5. Yes, it is that serious. A frontline is a frontline worker, especially in healthcare and other essential, often public facing jobs. Okay, self
Right. So that
explanatory.
can include not just doctors, nurses, firefighters, police officers,
Exactly.
anybody in the armed forces. It can also include transportation. It can include teachers, even.
Yeah, because they're in the public facing. So if we go based on that definition, public facing people who are in the public doing whatever job they're doing.
Yeah.
So basically like cashiers.
Yes. The people who deliver the food.
Exactly.
In no time like before, then more. I can't speak English today, apparently. I think during the pandemic, it was more obvious than ever
Yeah.
that the people that were driving the trucks to bring foods to the different cities and whatnot were massively important. Because if not, the supermarkets were going to get stocked, and everybody was
Exactly.
already freaking out because the shelves were empty. So,
It's
so yeah,
a domino effect. So no drivers, no food in the stores, no people go starving. No, yeah, exactly.
yeah. And within the frontliners like umbrella, we
Hmm.
have the first responders. And sometimes when we think of first responders, we only think of like when there's a crisis of like a fire, a flood,
Yeah.
a natural disaster, things like that. But natural disasters, hurricanes, it happens in Florida. So like I work for the Department of Health and they give us an alarm. So even though I work with in epidemiology, they will send us to shelters, and we're trained to go into shelters to man posts to help people that have been um, either flooded out of their home because of a hurricane or a tornado, like their house was blown. So there's first responders and frontliners, and the first responder on the front lines.
Exactly. Hi, Carmen. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, mama. And my mama is a first responder.
Besides Carmen, who else is who is a public facing worker? Because if we
Yeah.
say frontliners, it's
If
like
you're a nurse, a doctor, uh, if you what else? If you've worked in the food industry,
yeah.
transportation, teaching, where you at? Say hello.
Who else will be considered? Oh yeah, like the male people. I think they're very
Oh
essential.
my goodness. And they've had such a difficult time. You know,
Always.
yes, the mail might be late. Don't hate.
I was. Hi, Sharon. My
A
husband.
cook at that. Thank you. See, chefs, cooks. We also, as front, you have the EMTs, the people that drive the emergency vehicles, right?
But yeah, back to the statement of the male people. I was angry when people were like bitching because the mail was late a week or two, and I'm like, yes, they're late for a reason. One, we're in the middle of a pandemic at the beginning when it was worse, and two, you could wait for your mail. Is it something important? Is a dire need for you to have whatever you just?
Here's the thing. I understand wanting to get certain things on time,
Of course.
and maybe the post office should adopt certain things that UPS and other places are doing. But we are now in a space of like the competitive field of what it is to do certain things. And they're competing with things like UPS, like DHL, like freaking Amazon, which is now a monopoly of the supermarkets, of bookstores, of so many things. And they will have things to you overnight. And if you pay a membership, you get that overnighted for free.
Yes,
We
an
can't
instant
expect that of the post
gratification.
office. But Amazon, if it's snowing, if it's raining, if there's sleet, they will not come to your butt.
Right.
But the post office will. That is part of their motto.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are people that have worked in the post office for years. It is a thankless job.
Yeah. That's why I was like, yeah, my mail's late. It's okay, let it be late. I'd rather them be safe than have to risk their own lives for someone else's instant gratification. No, thank you.
Uh,
Oh, yes, we did forget to mention the breast cancer awareness. We have to mention it again.
yes.
Yes, remember, we are doing a walk on October 16th for breast cancer awareness. Is it month or is it week or is it just
It's for breast cancer awareness. I want to say it's month. It's for
month?
The Susan Komen Association, and it's early, y'all, but it's for a good cause. So we rendezvous at 7 to sign in. The walk starts by 9:15. You'll get to meet us in person. We'll have fun little doodads for those who are coming to walk with us in person.
Yeah.
And you do not have to, you can join our team and walk with us on the 16th, bright and early. We would love to have you there. I'd love to have you walk with us. When you go on our website, you can choose to join the team and it'll show you how to sign up. And then you can also have people make donations through you as a team member, or you can just donate. If you're not able to walk with us, you can still make a donation. Every little bit
Yes.
helps. We do have a team goal, but the goal pretty much is just to be able to support. Yes. Susan G's the month, the whole month.
Yes, we just thought we mention it so you guys don't forget because we do need or would like your support to say. But yes, we're walking and we're very excited about this. So this is our first No Filters, No Fears event basically that we're doing. So we're looking to doing more. So very excited. Carmen says our neighbors are are often our frontline helpers.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, that is
This
very
is
true.
very true.
Anybody out there? I'm over here like, what's going on? We do have a special guest today, which is my best friend. She is a nurse and she lives in Massachusetts. And I can't wait to have her on at around soonish, 8:30.
At around soonish.
So we can ask her a couple of questions and just like see how it actually is from a first responder, basically person to person, because I hear some crazy, scary stories. So yes, Janine Peter. Yes, correct. Yes.
I've actually got some statties.
Oh, share, do share.
I got some stats. I'm making faces, but they're not happy stats
No.
because the reality is first responders. So we've been going through a pandemic, and we know how grateful we need to be, not only to those who are delivering food across the way, but the ones that were immediate danger of this virus, which are our nurses and our doctors, and our EMTs. EMTs, am I saying that right? Um, but also, we just had the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We're going to forget politics. We're going to forget conspiracies. Just the fact that people died and that there was dust and debris affecting an entire city. Um, Firefighters, police officers, again, nurses, doctors. And it took a lot more than that. This is, my mama's hard hat from 9/11. She was part of the massage team, helping as relief to the firefighters who would come out of the pit with their boots melting onto their flesh. And the reason I bring that up is because therapists, massage therapists, things like that are also frontliners and first responders, because this is what happens to our frontliners. This is primarily for nurses. 27% have been diagnosed with depression. 10% have been diagnosed with PTSD. 47% have cited incidents that work caused their depression. I mean, you're constantly surrounded by sickness and death. I can't imagine that that's easy or pleasant. 75% of those diagnosed with PTSD have received treatment, which is a total plus in my book, because before you couldn't talk about having PTSD or depression or anxiety brought on by your work atmosphere without potentially getting fired.
Yeah, I remember.
which is caca.
I'm glad it has
Um,
changed because, you know, they're humans. You gotta, you
yeah.
know.
And they face stigmas at work. 39% say that there are negative repercussions for seeking mental help at work. Now, this was back in 2017. I guarantee you that since 2020, this has changed. Since
Well, I'm
2017, it's changed, but definitely since 2020, a lot of that has changed. Of those, 55% of the 39, right? And this is
sure.
according to University of Phoenix, say that their supervisor will treat them differently if they bring up mental health concerns at work. 45% say that their coworkers will perceive them as weak if they bring up mental health concerns at work. And 34% say that if they bring up mental health concerns at work, it will cause them to be looked over for promotions.
Wow.
That's really crappy. Along with all of this, first responders and frontliners are more likely, and this is an incredibly sad statistic, and it's very important to mention it right now during September, which is
Mhm.
Suicide Awareness Month. First responders are more likely to die by suicide than on the job. Police officers, firefighters, emergency medical service workers who die by suicide often experience PTSD, depression, and alcohol abuse. Firefighters and EMS, not EMT, workers, 103. I don't know if these are percentages or in numbers.
Mhm.
Yeah, 103 deaths versus 93 deaths. 103 suicides versus 93 deaths on, in the line of duty. Police officers, 129 deaths versus 140 by suicide. So it's not an easy job, and I don't necessarily see everybody like running out to sign up for them either. It really takes people that want to, because it's not just for specifically for those in the medical field. And I'm sure Janine can attest to this. It's not easy to study this crap.
I was there. I would know. Trust me.
It is not easy. And for doctors, it's years on years on years. And you don't get to become a doctor until you do your residency, until you. It's way too much.
The thing that people tend to forget is that they're people too. At the end of the day, it's an actual person
Yeah.
doing this. It's not a machine. It's a person with emotions. So,
Yeah.
you know, living and breathing.
Yeah. And part of the reason that they choose to do this kind of work is because that urge to help people, to be of service, is already in them. So they already have that sensitivity also
Right.
to, yes, you know that it's on the job, you're going to see death, you're going to see this, you're going to see that. But it comes to a point where it does like wear them down, I'm sure.
Right, exactly.
I can't see below my screen. So is Janine already there? Because I saw a smile.
Yeah, Janine is here.
Hi,
So,
Jackie.
hi Jackie. So we should just get it going and, you know,
Let's do
everybody
it.
say hi and be nice. No. Okay, Janine, I'm gonna sign you in now. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank
Just
you.
yourself.
Hi, I'm Janine. I'm a nurse.
So, how long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse since 2013. So what's that? 8 years?
Oopa.
Yeah, so 8 years.
Do you have any
What?
questions? I have plenty. I mean, I know her, but you know, you can ask her away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm wondering, in those 8 years, is there something that you've learned to assimilate easier now than when you first started? When you first started, you were like, oh no.
Right.
That's so what they teach you in nursing school is completely different than what you experience and what you have to go through as a new nurse when you get your first job. So it is kind of scary, but after a while, you kind of just adapt and adjust. So nurses have a tendency to be more flexible and adaptable in their environment that they're in.
Ook. Heard that. My aunt is a nurse.
Do
Cheers to
any
nurses.
cheers. We're raising our cups to the
We're
ones.
raising
Oh,
our cups
thanks.
to you. There's
Um,
no adult juice in it. It's water.
do you
Hydration.
I
um
have water too.
anyone watching us? Do you guys have any questions for Janine? Any question at all will be fine. I do have a question because this is honestly an honest question. Like, at any moment, did you feel like walking out and saying, "Screw this! I can't do this for the rest of my life"? It's 8 years now, so in
Yeah.
my mind,
So right at the start, we were monitoring it. I would check my phone every day just to see how many cases were being reported in Massachusetts. And at one point, when we started restricting visitors and family members from coming into where I work, that's when I realized, this is about to get real. And I started freaking out, like full blown panicking, because this was, something very new that we have no idea what it was about to bring to us. So yeah, I freaked out.
uh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, we have a question from Carmen. She's like, long hours, right? Very long
Yes.
hours.
So really extremely long work hours. So most nurses work 12-hour shifts. Some nurses are lucky to find jobs where they have 8-hour shifts, but those 8-hour shifts never end at the 8th hour or the 12th hour.
Of course
I've
they don't.
been at work for probably 15 hours when I worked a 12-hour shift before. And that's just because you can have any form of emergency that can happen right at the end
Yeah.
of your shift that you have to address before you leave. So yeah, it just all depends on how well your shift is going.
Wow. Um, even before pandemic time, because I feel like I'm sure you felt that heavy transition uh, at your work setting. Even before then, what do you think, what were you seeing the most of at work?
During the start of the pandemic,
No, before it started.
before we were full blown in a state of emergency, or I'm trying to get
Just
Yeah,
in general, I guess.
before
or the
COVID was a thing,
timeline.
before it wasn't it was a gleam in our eye. Before any of that, what was happening the most?
So before we heard of any cases, before we had any confirmed reports here or in New York or California, whatever, it was just any other normal work day, work week, work month, taking care of patients who are sick with the everyday issues that we know how
Right.
to take care of. So when this started, it was literally all of us on our phone saying, is it here? Is it here? Is it
Oh,
here
wow.
yet? And then when the cases started rising and people started to get really sick, there was just a sense of dread and fear in myself and also my coworkers, because we didn't know what was going to happen to us or to patients and to the community. So it was very scary.
Do you have a question, Chubi?
Yeah, for the mental health aspect of it. Obviously, before, during, and after it, how did you take care of yourself in that way for you to keep your sanity, basically? How did you do it?
Lots of time by myself. So at work, there's not really anywhere in particular that you can go that you could have a moment of peace. So nurses have this funny thing of like going into a bathroom to take like a couple of seconds or, a minute or two just to like breathe, let it all out, or in the med room or in the staff break room. That's where most of us just sat there and were like, oh my God, we are really actually dealing with this. And I just had to take walks. So on my day off, I would go for walks, I would read, I would do anything to distract me from what was going on when I was not at work. It was also kind of hard because I live on a very busy street and the fire station is probably a minute drive up the street from
Mm.
where I live. And down the street is I think it's a 120 bed nursing home.
Oh
And
wow.
I can remember, I'm still traumatized by that. I can remember the sirens of ambulances and the fire trucks going by in the first 3 months. I would say quite frequently during the day, and at night, late at night. So that kind of left me with like a sense of dread when I was at home too. Like, how many would I hear today going by? So yeah, it's been really rough, but you just learn to adapt and move on because life goes on.
I I do want to ask, um, because there are those, I'm sure you've gotten them at work that say it's not real,
Oh.
that you guys are just making it all up to get kickbacks and the whole thing, or that you're making it, I mean, you're dealing with it face to face.
I've had actual people, not during the height of the pandemic last year, but I actually took a contract job somewhere and they were starting to let visitors in. And I had several people come in without mask on, and we're like, hey, it's still the protocol to have masks on while you're in the building. That's a mandate straight from the governor's office. And this person was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Look at everybody. They're fine. They're completely fine. There's nothing wrong. It's over. It was just a fluke. Like, it's just like the flu.
Oh,
Um, and that just made me really sad and kind of disheartened too, to hear someone saying that when we've had to deal with that all throughout last year, and still currently dealing with that now.
oof.
Only if you could see our reactions.
Yeah, because it's beyond me. I had a patient. Now it's not a patient because I'm not a nurse, but we at the Department of Health we call them patients because
Yeah.
they are positive COVID patients. Uh, Heavy symptoms, highly
Yep.
symptomatic, and saying that it was just a cold, that
Yep.
they tested positive by accident, that it wasn't real, and having to call an ambulance for them because they refused to seek treatment, but they were having difficulty breathing. So it goes to show you where the mentality is, how badly people want to believe this isn't real. And I get it. We're all tired of being stuck at home.
I'm not.
But do we really want to find out by the harder way?
But it's unbelievable to me that they still. How can they believe that when the statistics are there and you've seen it and you even know people that have gotten and they're like, oh, it's fine, you're just faking it, or like,
Y'all, I was not faking that.
oh, I know that
I
was.
think I think in part it was because of, one, there's some people that enjoy their freedom. They don't like anyone telling them what to do, and that's
Right.
great and fine. But when the safety of the public is at risk, you really need to,
Right.
listen up and listen to what the experts are telling you. And on that side, people were seeing empty ER parking lots, empty doctor's office, and they're taking that as, hey, there's nothing going on there. Just because they weren't privy to see the actual areas where people were actually sick and dying. And it's very sad. It's a very lonely, painful death.
Yeah. And did did you at any point fear, like I'm sure it was overwhelming and it was scary, all the information coming in, seeing the page, but did you ever feel at risk?
Yes. One, because there was an extreme shortage of PPE. Normally, we use PPE per encounter with a patient. So let's say I have a patient who has the flu, take for instance, or tuberculosis. If I have to go in and give that person medication in the morning, I go in, I put on my PPE, I go in, I take care of them, I toss that, come back out. If I have to go into that patient's room again 6 more times during the day, that's a new set of PPE. So when this all started, there was such a shortage that we were being told, oh no, we can reuse them, when we've always been taught, we've always been practicing that it's single use only. So we were all scared, and some of my coworkers got sick. Few of them got so sick they ended up in the ICU on vents. Thankfully, they recovered. I think one coworker, he actually had to go to this long-term care facility just to get extra physical therapy and occupational therapy just to recover, because he had organ failure.
Wow. And for those listening that don't know, PPE is personal protective equipment.
I was
So
just about to tell you that.
the disposable gowns,
Yeah.
masks, shields. We were actually in jumpsuits. It was something straight out of a horror movie.
Film.
Yeah, like a sci-fi film. It was just to the point where we would go to work and it would just be our eyes, because at one point we had the gowns, well, not the gowns, the jumpsuits that also had hoods over them too. So we were completely covered. And it was really hot, really sticky, but we persevered.
Good.
Yeah, I remember like we were talking and I was like trying to find her masks over here because I remember at one point that she's like, there's none over there. And we couldn't find like what I gave you one. I was able to find one because I asked my brother to also,
Yeah.
we were just trying to scavenger hunt for even masks. Can you imagine a whole suit?
Yep. It was
Wow.
extremely, extremely crazy. And it still is.
Goodness.
Do anyone have any questions for Janine before she, logs off?
Before the pandemic, had you had to deal with any other kind of emergency situation that you were like, whoa?
Nothing on this scale, to be honest. The most we've had to deal with is just our regular codes, which are emergencies in themselves. We've never had to deal with something this large.
Yeah.
I do have a question. What was your most drastic change in your career, like in your 8 years? Like,
So, I actually had a change in my role. So I no longer work with patients directly, just because I've experienced what's called a burnout with nurses. That's when we've had to deal with all this emotional, I don't want to say trauma, but like emotional baggage that comes with nursing itself, not necessarily the pandemic. And also being really tired. Our shifts are extremely long, and extremely taxing on your body. So I just decided I needed to take a break. So now I just do direct care with patients every now and then, but I no longer work direct care. I mostly work from a, how do I put this, a financial standpoint now.
oh, okay. It sounds so stressful.
So this job that I'm in right now, it's stressful, but it's not as stressful because what a nurse typically encounters during the day, it's a lot of workplace bullying that happens, not only with coworkers, but also with management and also with family members and the patients themselves. So yeah.
How so, if I may ask? I don't know if you heard me. I said, how so, if I may ask? You mean like talking down to nurses? Because I know my ex-husband was also a nurse.
Yeah. So, for example, we take care of sick. We take care of people who are very sick, who need our help. And that's why we signed up for the job. We love to help people who are sick. And sometimes people outside of that role don't necessarily understand what you're going through. So some of the demand may kind of be inconsiderate at the time. So for an example, I had a patient a few years ago who was very sick, who was deteriorating to the point where we almost had to initiate what's called a code blue. And that's when the emergency team responds, we start CPR, we start giving all these meds and stuff like that. And we were trying to deal with that. I actually had to call a colleague of mine to help, and that took up quite a bit of my time. But I had other patients on my assignment. So I went to my other patients, and one of them in particular was very upset that I was late with a medication, which does happen sometimes. And I said, I'm very sorry. I had to deal with an emergency. I'm here to help you now. Just let me know what you need. And that person's response was, I don't care.
Oh,
And then from management standpoint, it's just the pressure of taking on more, doing a lot more than you know you're capable of. So nurses have this saying that we're always overworked, and that's like a motto of nursing.
yeah, I would imagine. We've got some other. I'll go backwards, starting with Vanessa.
Yeah.
She said, "Yeah, COVID is not fake. I can't breathe the same since," and I'm sure that is a fact that you've also seen a lot of patients with lasting symptoms, or not symptoms, but
Long, so they
lasting
call it
effects from having had
COVID.
Yeah.
So I've dealt with people who are acutely ill with COVID, and I've had people who are semi-stable with COVID, and it can go either way. And I've also taken care of patients who keep on being readmitted because of long-term side effects of COVID.
Yeah.
People get intubated, sometimes they don't wake up, and then they end up with a tube in their stomach to eat. They end up on a ventilator, and it's very sad because where is the quality of life for that person right now? They were
Right.
once very healthy individuals, and now the condition that they're in is it's just very sad. It's heartbreaking.
Which is what my mom brings up in the comments. We currently have a cousin who's been intubated for a while, and it's the idea of is it possible to recover after being in that situation for so long?
It is possible, I would say, but no one can tell for sure. I have seen people who were ventilated. They were eventually weaned off, and it's kind of like a step down that they do for them. And they're able to go home with some residual symptoms, not necessarily back to 100%. And I've seen it go the other way where they end up dying, or they end up being what we call totally dependent for care. That means they are unable to do things for themselves. Some people end up being in a vegetative state, which means there's no brain activity.
Yeah.
And then some people who are able to, talk to you, but they're not able to do other things such as dress themselves, feed themselves. Yeah.
To bring you back around, because within all of this sickness and death and all of this, I'm sure there's also moments where you really love to do your job, where it's like, oh yeah, this is why I do it, not because of this other caca.
Yes, yes. There are plenty of times where I do miss direct contact with patients. It's kind of lonely in the current position that I do. So that's why I still do what's called a per diem job, where I will pick up shifts to work directly with taking care of patients. And I will probably continue to do that until the day I die, just because I'm pretty good at what I do. I just had to take a step back because I realized last year that it was just too emotionally draining for me to continue to do that right now. So I had to take a break.
Um, did you ever feel like you weren't doing enough at any point to help?
Yes, all the time. All the time, every single day, every single minute. But you just have to keep going and do what you can do and just hope for the best. That's it. That's just what you have to do. You just have to keep going, keep doing your job, and hope that, you know, someone will survive, someone will be able to be discharged home.
Yeah. Do you have any anecdotes or thoughts or like memories of like one particular moment that you're like, oh, I'm gonna hold on to this for a bad day?
Something positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
I remember plenty of stories. Come on.
I don't think there's anything per se that I would hold on to. It's just like fond memories of the connections you make with patients. Knowing that you were able to help them, help them in the rehabilitation recuperation process of them being ill. I wouldn't say there's anything in particular that sticks out, but there are fond memories.
You know, I went backwards. I should have asked these other ones for this other question first and then a happy question.
That's fine.
Because it's kind of going to a sad place again. But then there's
I don't mind. That's fine.
And now even more so that you're working with the financial aspects, I'm sure you see a lot more of the politics behind what you guys have to deal with in the hospital settings. You know, where they have to start pulling the red tape that kind of impedes you from having a complete kind of human response, because there's all these other legal things that need to be thought of and protocol and taka taka taka. How difficult is that sometimes when you feel like you know what you can or should be done, but because of protocol or whatnot, your hands are tied?
I wouldn't say I experience that much. How do I say this? I don't think I have that much. I'm trying to think here. That's a good question. So the way myself and my team works is if we have an issue or a problem that we need to address, there's a team that we talk to. And then we all come together and discuss the issue related to the patient at hand and then try to work out something that would end up being positive for the patient. I can't go into much details about it, obviously, but for the most part, my job, I still end up helping people. I just end up helping patients from the background setting now. So there is red tape, but there's always a way. Like, that's the thing I kind of like about nursing. You learn to be creative. You learn to find solutions. Not saying that there's a solution to everything, but we do try our best to find solutions to the particular problem that we have identified.
We have a question. Like insurance may not cover what the patient needs. Something along that line. That was from Carmen.
For COVID, or
I guess in general.
In general.
Yeah.
Like
yes. So I don't deal directly with insurance companies. I do know they have a whole process that they do. And yes, insurance does and doesn't cover certain things, but that's just our healthcare system in general.
Yeah.
That's just how it has always been.
I'm trying to think if I have another question. Is there anything on your mind that you wish patients or people who go to hospitals would know or should, like, kind of an etiquette kind of thing? Because you did mention before about, you know, a little inconsiderate when they ask. So is there anything that you would like to tell our viewers and listeners that maybe they'll share with others as to, yeah, be nice to our nurses?
Yes. Be nice to healthcare workers in general. They're dealing with a lot. And that's even prior to COVID. These people work extremely, extremely hard. And they're doing it for very good reason, because a life is precious, you know? You never know when it could be yourself or your grandmother or your sister or your brother that ends up being in a hospital or being sick somewhere. And you would want them to take the best care of your family member or your loved one. So just try to be nice to them. I'm pretty sure they've had a rough day if you encounter them at the end of their shift. It's been rough.
Yeah. I don't know if I have it. I don't think I have any more questions.
I have a statement. This is why she works as a nurse and I do not, because I will be crying like 100% of the time. I
Oh
will
goodness.
be,
So
I
I'm not
will
gonna
be,
cry now.
So there were times like we cry normally because people die. You, in that short period of time, you grow attached to that person. You end up building a relationship with that person, and then they end up dying. But sometimes that's expected, sometimes it's not expected, and it's really sad. I remember my first death being in nursing school, and I went home that night and I could not sleep because I was just so traumatized by that death. But eventually you get used to it. The problem with COVID was that there was so many deaths. I remember going in one day and my boss was like, "Oh, you know, so and so died," and I was like, "Oh my god!" And then she got a call and she's like, "Oh my god, this person's dying," and that person ended up dying. I think I lost 4 people that I took care of at one point
Oh
in the
gosh.
past. And that news came over the course of one day. So there was a moment where I had to like go in the bathroom and just bawl my eyes out for a couple of minutes, because at that point it just became extremely overwhelming.
I was just about to ask you that. How did you even have time to process every single death right after another one? But yeah, you just answered.
No, nope. It was cry and then get back to it.
I
My mom is a doctor, by the way, Janine, and she says it takes a very unique person to work in nursing.
It really does.
It really does.
In healthcare in general, you have to be a very loving, kind, caring person to work in healthcare. Otherwise, you would not be in that field. It's not for you if you don't have that type of personality.
No, definitely not. Um, Vanessa asked, has your place of employment shown their appreciation to the nurses?
So,
You nurses, sorry.
not my place of employment. Okay, so we have this thing called Nurses Week, and it's kind of like a meme going around the internet where they say, you know, I wonder what we're getting for Nurses Week and what type of pizza will it be?
I've seen that going around.
Or I wonder what kind of pen it'll be. Um, so, yes, my place of employment has shown appreciation. I just think that my bosses would have loved to have done more for us, per
They
se,
get
but
nurses a spa day. Not a pizza.
It's a every year thing. It's an every year joke among nurses during Nurses Week. What pizza are we getting, or what pen are we getting?
How many cupcakes?
How many Oh, I don't think we got cupcakes. No,
Donuts,
but I do have to say this though. I'm very thankful for the community that we were in last year and their response to us, because literally we had a huge outpouring of just appreciation and love from members of the community. There were restaurants that would send us lunch every day. They would send us flowers. They would send us dinner. And I just like to say, thank you to those people, because it really mattered. We were really hungry.
And I'm sure it also felt good because somebody was recognizing how difficult that time had to have been for you guys.
It was. And I can remember one time during the pandemic where it was the start, and I went to Starbucks, and this the barista looked at my badge and she's like, "You're a nurse?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh my God, thank you." And I was like, "For what?" And she goes, "For doing your job." And I'm like, we do it every day. It's okay. You don't need to thank us. It's a thankless job, but we don't go into it for that.
Right.
We do it just because we have a good soul. We are caring beings by nature, so we don't expect that in return. So when that started happening, it was like, oh my God, I'm being thanked. Like, wow, I felt like we felt like
used to it. Maybe that should be the norm of thanking healthcare workers, because
I think it should. I really
because
do.
sadly, I don't think the masses recognize how difficult it is until it's just so much. The saturation of sickness, right, is so much, and they start to be affected by it directly. And everywhere on the news, everywhere on social media, everywhere you run into it, you're like, these people are with it face to face. I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Thanks for you doing it. Right?
Yeah.
So thank your healthcare workers. Make that the norm.
I really wish we could, because I can remember having a really rough day. This was prior to COVID. And I took care of this very sick elderly lady, and she had a family that was just super loving, super attentive. Excuse me. And I know I said prior that sometimes family members can be bullies, but there are times when family members are super nice and super appreciative. And when her mother got discharged, she actually brought me a flower, and she was like, "You were one of my mom's favorite nurses, and I want to say thank you for all that you've done for her." So we do get thank yous. It's just it's not as often, but it doesn't matter to us.
Yeah, I feel like when the pandemic happened, everybody realized like, yeah, you're not doing it for the thank yous, but then you realize how much no thank yous go around, even in regular. Like I saw it amplified more, and it's like, yes, thank them. They're doing something that you're not gonna be doing. You're not gonna put yourself there. So yeah.
My mom, bless you and your colleagues, doctors cannot work without nurses. I know that for a fact. My mom was very big on supporting and showing love to her nurses. Thank you for your dedication.
Tell her I said thank you.
She hears it. She hears it. Oh, goodness. These have been very crazy times.
Yeah, definitely.
This was nursing, like courage under fire nursing. This is not taught to you in nursing school. I bet.
No.
I feel like crisis, like in a chapter. You're like, what?
Not at all. Like I said prior, what I learned in nursing school, completely different than what I encountered on the job my first day. I was like, well, I wasn't taught this in nursing school. And then my preceptor said to me, "Welcome to the real world."
This is the new school. This is real life school.
Yep. Yep.
Oh god.
Does anyone have any other final comments or just statements? Anybody? Mhm.
This is
We'll
your
wait.
time, darlings.
Okay.
Yeah,
Waiting.
just waiting, just in case. Gotta give it a second. I wish you could see your faces where like you're making Vanessa cry. Like she's about to like.
I'm sorry. I
No,
didn't mean
Okay.
to
listen,
make anyone cry.
my
It's a very
eyeballs
sad
are always
situation, but
ready to go for the cry.
We're always crying since episode 1, but this is just, yeah.
No, specifically when it comes to things like this, I've lost people to COVID. Like I told you, currently have family member. I had it. My mom had it. Like it was difficult, and it wasn't like we were out there like partying and we got it.
yep.
So it's like,
Yeah.
if it
Exactly.
if it happens, gonna happen. You just have to be smart about it.
Yep.
But these particular times, but also my mom being a doctor, I have so many friends that are nurses, and seeing
Yeah.
them come home and not being able to get close to their kids at the beginning of the pandemic because they didn't know what was going to
We did not
happen.
know. It was just
It's a
extremely.
lot.
Even to this day, when I come home, because my interaction with patients is sort of like 30% of the job now. So even now, I get undressed at the door and I go straight into the shower and
Yep.
wash my hands. Like it's like a head to toe. And even now, I still don't wash my scrubs with my regular clothes.
Yep. You just never know. Well, thank you. Thank you absolutely for everything that you do. I can't do it, but we're happy to be able to give a platform to the people that do, because
Yes, definitely.
know that I would not be the best nurse. I'd be crying half the time. I can't look at the
That's
blood, so I
okay.
can't give you an injection. You'd be in trouble.
Eventually, you
Everybody
learn
used
to
to tell
kind
me,
of
mom's a
cry
doctor,
in
and all of a sudden
private.
I'm, Grey's Anatomy status. No, negative.
And y'all know me. I have no patience for.
Yeah, we
No,
know.
Nurse Trudy might slap somebody.
I'm over here like, listen, we're trying our best. Calm Alama down, but it's okay. Yeah, no, I will be like, I
Yeah,
quit.
that doesn't work.
Right.
That does not work.
No, I know. But hey, this is why we have you, and thank you again because,
My pleasure.
Vanessa Lopez says thank you, truly, and
There's a
everybody.
lot of thank yous in the
You're
comments.
welcome. It's a pleasure.
Well, I say that we all say final thoughts together. Oh wait, I have quotey quotes.
Yeah.
Would you like to stay with us through quotey quotes so you can be part of final thoughts?
Yeah, sure.
Yay! So we're just gonna do quotey quotes quickly. I've got a few of them. Let me get to the quotes. Here they are.
I wish you could see our faces though.
Yeah, I can't see. It's two little black squares.
Oh no. Okay. So is this my first quote? I hope it is. Yes. So first quote is, and I can't even see it because it's behind the symbols. It's hard to explain to a non-EMS person how you are able to be woken up in the middle of the night and drive to some place you've never been to take care of someone you've never met. Josh Polonio, EMS World. Yeah.
True.
Yep. It is. It is.
Because you really are treating people you've never known in situations that, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that's the job, you treat everyone as if they were your loved ones, literally.
It is the epitome of what it is of expressing humanity and kindness. Oof,
exactly.
Okay. The people who are on front lines every day in hospitals are the good of the world. Eve Ensler.
That
Yeah.
Eve
is true.
Ensler is a playwright. She wrote, yeah, I'm gonna say it live, the Vagina Monologues.
Oh yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, she's got many family members who work in the medical field. So she has a personal heart in it. My next Cody quote: I think a hero is any person really intent on making this a better place for all people. Maya Angelou.
Indeed.
If every frontline and first responder is not a hero, y'all need to change the damn definition. I don't see anybody over there doing what Janine does, doing what the firefighters do. Those are, the study process is not easy. The training process is not easy. Not for nurses, not for doctors, for those that are more physical, like police officers, firefighters. It is so difficult to become a firefighter. A friend of mine was without a house. That's what they call the fire stations. Without a house for 3 years after he had already passed all his firefighting. He just couldn't find a house to be in because they're like families. They're that close because you literally have each other's lives in each other's hands.
Yeah.
Ooh. Hold on. Why can't I cannot see this quote. Was that my firefight? What does that say, True? Because I can't.
I think it says, what makes firefighters courageous in my eyes isn't what they do day in and day out. It's what they're willing to do at any given moment. And that's very true. I don't think I would ever be able to run into a burning building.
Listen, I will have a panic attack before I even think of just the thought of it not happening.
Like that takes a special type of bravery to do that.
It does. And I mean, we just mentioned 9/11 before. They went in expecting a fire like any other and had to evacuate people by way of staircase up 80 floors.
Yep.
And they got them all. They got all those people out for a time before the collapses. So, and then having to figure on the fly, like in that moment, what the strategy is going to be to get hundreds of people out and then thousands because of evacuating the general area. My brain hurts. Those who have long enjoyed such privilege as we enjoy forget in time that men have died to win them. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, or Roosevelt, as it's properly pronounced. We can say so many things about our armed forces, but as someone who had many friends in JROTC, like after like part of a lineage, I wanted to go and do this for the right reasons. We did a whole episode on this before. We forget, and we talk about that as well on so many of our episodes. We forget what it's taken for so many of us to get here. That it took people giving up their life, not just armed forces. Civilians who were willing to be on the front lines and give up their time and their knowledge. Retired nurses, retired firefighters, retired doctors, right? Yeah. That show up because they know that it's needed. You got to know your history and not repeat it, y'all.
Exactly. Like we always say, when you know better, do better.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that your final quotey quote?
That was my final quotey quote.
I swear, it's just because Janine read one, so I was like thrown off, it was bad.
I'm so glad you read it. It's because since I have it sideways, the emojicons, whatever they're called, y'all. I don't know technology. They're covering like the first line. So thank you, Janine, for the save.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Final thoughts?
I don't know. It's just, I'm thinking, and it's just like, we don't know what anyone is going through. Like the person next to you on a train that just looks normal. You don't know what their job is, what they're doing, if they're stressed, if they're tired. Like, just respect anyone and everyone, especially if you're going to go into a place where someone else is serving you, and need their help or their assistance. Just be nice and be kind. Obviously, the world doesn't revolve around you. It's everybody, and we gotta be nice and help everyone. So that
Very
is
true. Very, very true.
Janine, do you have any final thoughts, comments that you'd like to share?
Final thoughts. No, not really. Just continue to wear your mask, guys, because it's not over.
yes.
My final thought, yes, to all of the things shared from Jimmy and Janine. Also, we get a lot more with kindness than being a jerk. You get more information, you learn more. If we stay quiet long enough, we can learn and not just act out of fear and desperation. We can respond out of an educated space. Sometimes it doesn't have to be from a book. Sometimes it can be from talking to your nurse. And if you're not a jerk, they're more likely to explain it to you in a way that you can assimilate, understand, and feel comfortable.
Yep.
That being said, if it's true that pandemics tend to last 5 years, this isn't over.
Yes.
And if that is the case, it would be so much easier if we were considerate of one another and stop all the nonsense of, vaccinated versus unvaccinated. There's 1,050 reasons for us to be separate. Regardless, we have to be considerate of one another.
Yep,
Regardless,
exactly.
we have to make sure to not, to be conscientious of, our day to day. It's not the same as it was before. And that sucks. And it's not just you going through that. It's an entire world.
Yep.
Literally.
So together we can get through it so much faster. I think already we've started to fall into that trend where we've forgotten, like during the beginning of the pandemic, all of us are in this together. We're here together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And time has passed and now everybody's like, screw it.
Yep.
I'm in it for myself. I deserve, I am.
Every man for themselves now.
We are not an island, yo.
I was just about to say that. I'm over here like, we're not an island. And it's true,
We're not
though.
an island. So let's remember what that felt like, because so many amazing innovations happened during that time when we just couldn't be together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's not take for granted these certain new privileges that we're starting to get, with all the while keeping in mind that we still need to stay safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is all on my end.
Yes. Anybody have any final things to say in the comments before we say goodnight? No? Not everybody type at the same time. It's okay.
Help each other always. It's what keeps us human.
Carmen says thank you.
Yes.
Mama Bear.
Thank you all so much for watching. Be kind to your first responders and frontliners. They're still out there doing the damn thing.
Yes,
that
and
we would not be willing to do.
And I want to say, I want to say also, guys, be kind to your retail employees too.
Oh yes.
They go through a lot and they have to deal with a lot. So be nice to them.
That applies to those to servers as well. I see people be so nasty to servers. Yes, they're serving you, but they're not your bitch. I see people talk to them so nasty, and they're going through it too. Some of them are students, some of them are parents trying to take care of their children. Like,
somebody has someone sick and they're still doing their job.
And all those places were closed for so long. They're trying to get back on their feet. So the hustle is real.
Exactly.
Yes. And like we always say, stay fearless, everyone.
Stay fearless, fam.